27 minutes, here we go. Ken and Scott, Postconsumers. I am Ken.
I'm Scott.
And today we have a guest.
I'm Christian.
Christian Smith. Move in, Christian. Get close to our high-tech voice recording devices.
Best we can do for now until our audience expands.
Oh no, this is it.
This is all we're getting.
This will get us on the road next time we have another guest, if that ever happens.
Well, it's good to be here. Good to be the first guest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our first guest, absolutely. What are we talking about, Christian?
Well, the topic that I titled today's show was why saving the world is a bad idea.
Why is saving the world a bad idea?
Well, in short, I think our folly has been that we're not smart enough to operate on a global scale any system. And over again, empires have risen and fallen, showing that they can't control commons based at a scale that's larger than a small locality or bioregion. So saving the world ideas serve as kind of a mental virus that stops us from actually looking at the commons that we do have some control over and are smart enough to manage by looking at these global scale solutions to problems that won't work and have unintended consequences like every global scale solution.
So trying to save the world is just a false premise to even begin with. You say. It's like it's impossible. It's an impossible task for even all of humanity to save the world.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, our response to the global scale problem of climate change might be geoengineering, which is going to have a billion knockdown unintended consequences.
Oh yeah. That's what I worry about.
It's an easy example to pick from.
Yeah.
But
the grander we seem to build the scale of what we need to fix because we screwed it up, the more we just screw things up. I mean, I keep bringing it up. I'm going to talk about air pollution, which is ravaging China right now.
Yeah.
And India.
And India, all the new industrial, all the nations that have risen up to be the industrialized nations that feed us all our dollar store crap. But eventually we're gonna reach a point where we have to build the thing I keep talking about all the time is the air reclamation unit. I mean they've commoditized water, they've commoditized land so long ago we don't even remember. It's just assumed that the state owns the land and everybody gets their chunk if the state wants them to have it through money. But eventually we're going to commoditize the air because we've rarefied everything else on the planet.
Yeah.
And that is going to, that is going to have untold number of unknowables that go wrong about it because we get our air from plants right now, currently, and the ocean, which is spitting out air from the plants in the ocean. There's probably something going on that they spit out that we don't even know what it is that we need. And we're going to get rid of it, and it's going to be gone forever, and then we'll just be less and less a human being again.
Plants are a nice solution because they're a local solution, and I think if we're talking about solutions that aren't local, they're not solutions. That's my basic premise for the show today. If it's an industrial scale solution, it's not a solution.
Right.
At scale, at scale systems are under control of at scale entities. We're not at scale entities. We're just human beings. So let's focus on the communities that we have. So with what you're talking about with air pollution, let's plant air purifying plants around our homes, inside of our homes. Perhaps find some way to build biochar, whatever filters that might work or whatever using local resources.
Right.
Christian, earlier you made reference to a couple of different optimal sizes. You did mention local communities like we have here in Lansing, but you also mentioned bioregions.
Yeah.
Where do you think the sort of cutoff point on problem approaches would work here in the United States?
Well, just a little bit of background into myself. After I went to school at MSU for psychology and biology and got really into evolutionary psychology and realized that our social scale is bad for our physiological and psychological well-being. We want social spheres within our physical locality. We want deep relationships right where we live, and that's not our society's heading, so we have increased anxiety, increased depression. So I came out wanting to study this positive psychology of spirituality and community. Well, I got really into environmentalism, working at an environmental nonprofit, and recognized as peak oil, a collapse of modern society, and recognize that the community response, the local response, is the response for all the problems that face us, not just social ills, but environmental ills as well. So I came up with this idea for a sustainable community model that would be able to replicate at scale, so it might go up to the bioregion. So I got this really big solution that attempts to think globally but act locally. Yeah, but to think globally but act locally. But even that was a mind virus, because I was operating at the tallest possible scale that I could as an individual. But because it's so grand, this project needs millions of dollars. I've spent the last 2 years organizing for this project and gotten very, very, not very far at all. So what if I
got a lot of community support, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
we've
had
been following you along with it, too. I mean, there's a lot of people that are into it, yeah, but you're right. It's going to come down to a huge chunk of money from somebody or a bunch of people.
And I don't mean to downplay the good community conversations, the education that's went on, the community connections and community making. That is all real. But I question myself, what if I had spent the last 2 years just planting trees? Where would be, instead of looking at the largest possible scale, what if we had just done the day-to-day, every day, planting trees, planting berry bushes? Where would we be right now? We might be way better.
Right. Well, Rooster Square.
Rooster Square, exactly. But that times it whatever,
Yeah, we'll just keep going with that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with thinking big, though. I mean, on that's still a regional scale.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, you're trying to put a food forest all over an entire state or something, to centralize the food for the country or something, some ridiculous notion like that
I mean, ideally,
big engineers sometimes come up with. Centralization,
I would love to reforest our whole bioregion. I think we need to, and that's kind of the idea, is that we could show it doing it at a regional scale like Lansing or a community, and then we could scale up from there. But again, I'm self-critiquing here, because big ideas, I guess I'm arguing that big ideas are necessarily bad, or the larger you get, the worse they are.
Well, there's a lot of I would say a lot of evidence for that. I mean, the Hoover Dam, I mean that is it's
devastated.
It's devastated that area. It's trapped a water resource that it's going to dwindle. It created this illusion of excess that everybody has used too much of now, and the Colorado River doesn't even reach the Gulf anymore. It hasn't for decades.
I know. And it's tempting, because when we're faced with such big problems, we're like, wow, I need to think of these big solutions. But then, you're spending your day-to-day ignoring the commons that are right around you, even just the people that are right around you, the rivers that are right around you.
Sure.
We don't live near the Colorado River.
No.
We have literally no control over it.
Right, that's true. No, absolutely. But what we do have are the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
As people keep trying to come up with big solutions, you know what a big solution would be? A giant pipeline from here to California.
Sure. There you go.
So you're right.
They've put that on the table many times, and they're not.
If they don't get Excel, maybe that'll be next. I mean, and I don't know. I keep seeing today that Excel keeps passing and sort of passing, and I don't know if it's going to finally pass or not. But yeah, that's another big solution to a big problem: energy. And it's going to be a mess and a nightmare.
And it's not that we shouldn't talk about it. I think we should talk about the big solutions, because we should be ready for them when they impact our locality.
Well, the big solutions, I don't think anymore are physical solutions. They're philosophical issues.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, the big solutions are things like what we're doing is changing people's minds on a grand scale. And this show, who knows, maybe it'll catch on, and that some of this stuff will just filter and tinker around, because that's where it's got to start. I mean, the problem, as always, that's why we do the show, is consumption. We consume way too much, and nothing's left. And all these big solutions are just Band-Aids, hopefully, to maintain this ridiculous, unsustainable way of life that we've built for ourselves.
And the big solutions are going to serve the big people, the big entities. They're not going to serve the little guys.
No, not at all. Not at all. They're going to be big infrastructure that people that keep building this infrastructure, they're the ones that get rich. Yeah. All these projects are still nothing more than turning nature into money, and the people don't get any of it.
And I applaud what you guys are doing, what you were saying about changing mindsets, because like this can go out to many people across the nation.
Yeah, it's open to anybody in the world. This show,
but it's still showing something that we're actually doing here, which we're having a conversation that would be worthwhile, even if no one else heard it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, so let's do it locally and then show it globally.
Yeah,
don't try to do it globally.
Right. So then, and that's what we're doing here, and that's what we're gonna keep on doing.
Yeah.
Now, when you state your initial thesis here.
Okay.
Saving the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talk more about the different types of mindsets that make us feel like we need to save.
Right.
Anything. I mean, it is like a psychological issue more than a physical one, like Ken was just saying.
Oh, sure.
I mean, the mindsets have got to change.
There's
no other way around it.
In a certain sense, saving the world for the person saying it is saving the mindset that they're in right now. They want to save the lifestyle that they have. They want to save the mindset that they have because we don't want to change ourselves because change is really hard.
Right.
Yeah.
So when someone says save the world, they're saying save the world as I see the world. So
absolutely, sure.
Somebody might say save the world, but they really only mean industrial civilization. Somebody might say save the world, and they really only mean every other species except humanity.
Right.
Good
points.
Yeah.
So those are two sides.
What does that mean when somebody says "save the world"?
Exactly. I mean, because the actual physical sphere of the globe is going to be here no matter what we do.
Yeah.
Even if we exploded all the nuclear bombs, I'm pretty sure it's still physically intact.
It'd still
be here long after we're done.
Be a dead rock, just waiting for the next, whatever was left piece of life clinging to rise up again.
Life will survive.
Oh yeah.
It's a question of whether we're going to survive and what amount of biodiversity will. I mean,
Right.
I think those are the relevant questions.
Right.
I think people that would criticize what you're saying, a lot of them would say, well, peak oil, all that, but there are technological solutions to our energy problems. People want to put so much faith in technological solutions. That includes local, too.
Technological solutions to sustain an unsustainable way of life, or a life that's a little more sustainable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question we all need to keep asking. Or what?
Yeah, technology to what end? Is it increasing consumption? Is it decreasing consumption?
Is it increasing happiness? We talked about that. We talked about that last week. It's like, what are we doing this for? What is the purpose of any of this? What world are we trying to save?
Yep.
That's the first. You're right. That's the first definition we all need to come up with. What is the world that we want to save?
Right.
To do that, we've got to redefine wealth.
Yeah.
And debt and everything else related to our economy.
Right. Well, wealth to me is close family and friends, food, shelter, clean water, clean air, clean earth, clean food. How much more do we need?
It's important, though, because, we're saying we need to define these things. All right, well, who is the we? Is it just us in this room? Is it our locality in Lansing?
Just us.
Is it the world?
We're going to take over the planet.
But, I think it's important to emphasize variability and to difference. We need to respect variability because there's a variety of different reasonable ways to define wealth, dependent on your bioregion, dependent on your culture, dependent on your microculture, dependent on your family's culture.
Sure.
So there's going to be no one solution. There's going to be 7 billion solutions based on each individual person reevaluating what wealth means to them and how they're going to adapt to the changing circumstances of life on this planet on their block, in their watershed.
Right. Well, the younger you start with people, the better off it is too. I've just started this class, it's media literacy class. I'm trying to teach little kids, to not want to buy everything they see on TV and YouTube especially, whatever. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just seems like to change people's minds, you have to start as young as possible.
Culture takes a long time to change.
Yeah, it does. To undo everything that they've been bombarded by already.
Generations.
Yeah.
What scares me is I don't think we have generations.
That's the trouble. That's the trouble. It's gonna
go over the cliff, and the prognosis just frankly is not looking too good right now.
It's got to start though. It's
Hate
got
to be
start.
pessimistic.
No, you're right, but
it just doesn't look good. Everything that I've been reading,
none of
all
it's going to
the
change in our
analyses.
life. It's not going to change in our lifetime, certainly.
What do you mean? What's not going to change?
Changing everybody to stop,
I see.
to stop doing all the horrible things they're doing to the planet, all the things we want them to do. Hopefully there is enough time, but it's got to start somewhere. And I'm trying with this show and everything else that we do.
And Scott, you were saying you were pessimistic, but there's pro and con to everything. I could say you're being optimistic. The sooner the society collapses, the more natural resources
seen
that are
that
left.
argument made recently by a lot more
Yeah.
people. It's
Right.
like, let's push, bring it on.
Right.
The sooner we collapse, the better.
Right.
Not everybody's saying that, but more voices seem to be going.
And you said we collapse, but it collapses. The economy
True,
collapses,
true.
but localities might flourish in
Right.
collapsing.
Like what we're trying to build here with the time bank
Yeah.
and the trade cooperatives and everything. Yep.
Mutual aid network. That's a big solution that can still work though.
It's like developing a new social structure, and if it works, and it's the main focus is local. And if we find out that we can make this methodology work, other communities will scale it.
It's networking.
Similarly,
Networking
and
a lot
then
of
we're all
smaller
there
groups.
together.
Yeah.
So we're
And it's bottom up. It's like it's support. Like hierarchically, the localities are the main agent. It's just like
Absolutely.
supporting local.
Right.
absolutely.
Right. States' rights, in effect.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, regional.
Whatever that used to mean in this country.
But one could consider it a big approach. I think.
Yeah.
The fact that we are networking around the planet with these different man networks.
It's not an infrastructure, though. It's an infrastructure to a degree. It depends on an infrastructure. Depends on the World Wide Web to exist. But that's already in place.
Is it okay to say that the man network depends on the health of the localities, but the localities don't depend on the health of the man? Because
Depends what they need or want.
depends.
Yeah.
Depends what they need or
I
want.
mean-
I mean, part of the man, my interpretation of it is eventually to replace all the government services that just keep going away. I keep bringing up garbage collection and
bridges.
decent roads, but yeah, we're gonna need
some kind of big-
another
big
entity
local
that's
project.
organized to build bridges if needed.
yeah,
roads.
resource pooling.
Yeah, or whatever the future needs. I mean, building
Yeah.
tractors for every county or something like that out of whatever's left.
But as you scale up resource pooling, you're scaling up where those resources go to. So, for instance, where we pool at the federal level, most of it goes to warfare and
Right.
resource extraction
Oh, yeah.
from
Yeah.
the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
So if you're pooling even at a bioregional scale, you still might get into the same scaling effects where like regional powers get to choose where those resource pools go. So the best place for your money is probably in your underneath your bed. Second best place is with your family. Third best place is with your neighborhood, because that money is going to go to impacting your quality of life
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Right. So you're implying that someday the man could be this horrible entity, not unlike our federal government right now. That
I feel like scale inherently corrupts. It's
whoever's in charge of that scale at the higher
Yeah.
ends gets corrupted.
no matter what
Sure,
their intention,
yeah.
no matter it's just the necessity of how you have a voice at scale. It's the power, the money interests, they have the voice. The little one person doesn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Has that been discussed much with the man? Well, I guess nobody's probably.
No, we haven't really.
Well,
Actually, that's not true. We've tried to build it into the core principles that just inherently any man network has to, serve its local people first and foremost. But there are
it's going to get political.
We have discussed
It's going to get political.
having
Alliances will be
man
broken.
networks that aren't based on just local. They actually will be like a frequent flyer clubs, that kind of thing.
It comes down to decision making. How does the man network allocate the resources? Even if every single entity only gets one vote, the entity that's already done the most good will have clout, will have the hierarchical power of being able to attract more money, as we've seen with the basics of privilege across all scales.
Right.
Local autonomy is very key in our
Yeah.
core principles. Each man network is autonomous.
But
They decide what they do for their members themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
You just have to really strictly adhere to that, like
Well,
the
there should be no
hierarchy.
Yeah, there should be no hierarchy. There should be no hierarchy.
Yeah,
it should be
there's
a
no
democratic decision of all the members.
Yeah, there's no meta man.
There's no reason not to be
organization that's going to be
meta man.
Is it
Mega
groups
man.
what to do.
Is it consensus? Is it consensus or 51%? Or do you guys have a governance
I haven't.
structure?
I haven't.
Like that?
I've forgotten the bylaws. It's all in the bylaws.
Sure,
in
sure.
fact,
Well, there's
we've
a work
we've been
group
playing
that I
around.
just got put on. That was it the political work group or not communications, but
Social.
social. You guys are calling it the social.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their governance is under this work group that I just got plopped on.
Mm-hmm.
That this is interesting. This is an interesting discussion about that.
Yep. And
sort that out.
we are looking at something I am unfamiliar with. It's called sociocracy, and we've talked a little bit about it.
What is that?
Christian. I don't know that much about it.
Sociocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like different like subgroups that have representatives to a major group, like, and then there's kind of like up and down movement of people. So a representative goes up to the main group, and then main groups like each representative on the main group goes to like the subgroups. I don't know. It's kind of complicated. That's one of its negatives, is that it's got some education up front. It's not as easy as conceptually as democracy or consensus.
Right.
But I encourage people to look it up.
Right. Well, there's got to be another way to avoid the winner-take-all of our democracy. I mean, that's our biggest downfall right now. That's why we have a two-party system instead of like 20, where truly, a wider variety of decision-making is made. I mean, it's either left or right, because we have a winner-take-all. Whatever system we come up with for the man has got to avoid the winner-take-all, competitive situation to some degree.
I have a slight tangent, which I think relates. It's not.
Oh, we love tangents on the show.
It's not about. It's not necessarily about the
tangents are great.
It's about hierarchy versus like horizontal governance or whatever. I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe I'll make an argument that I actually don't like, but I think it might be true. With the densities of our urban centers, so we got 2 million people in Chicago. We've got hundreds of thousands of people living in really high density. Perhaps the only way that we can have people living in those densities is really strict hierarchical power structure, where you have essentially violence down the structure to make sure everyone stays in line, because there's too much volatility in that amount of density.
Well, that's what we have now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what we have now. So that's what we have right now. So we couldn't do a hierarchical governance structure in these high densities. Like it simply just doesn't function. So hierarchy is necessitated by the type of lifestyle, like the type of communities that we're in. Even though I hate it. So maybe anarchy. I'm an anarchist, sort of. In that, like, I really like really horizontal, small localities governing together. But in these urban centers, anarchy, if we switch to anarchy, would look like violence, because there would be so many competing interests, and people who have gotten an inordinate amount of resources, their resources would have to be taken from them violently.
Yeah.
Because they would say no. And in this horizontal, governance structure, they could veto it. But no, we're going to take it. And then it would be a violence. It would perhaps be what people think of when they think of anarchy.
It doesn't have
chaos.
to be violent. They can give it up at the door, or succumb to the pitchforks and torches. I mean, that I don't know. Is the country getting there? It seems like it's getting there.
Yeah,
It's getting there.
I think it is getting there. I mean, in Lansing.
I just read a Facebook thing today that most of the new Congress, they're all of the Republicans.
Oh, sure.
They're most over 50% are now climate deniers.
Yep.
They're climate deniers. I mean, this country, they say you get the government you deserve, and we have it now. We have it now. Yeah. It's been way too long that we've walked down this path, and it's going to take at least as long to walk back out of it. I mean, everybody's depressed about it because it's like, well, tough. You're not going to see the fix in your life. That's just how it's going to be. But and I've resigned myself to that. But we got to do what we got to do to fix this place.
Yep. I mean, global warming is no longer a problem. Have you guys talked about the thing between problem and predicament? Like, it's no longer a problem to be solved; it's a predicament to be adapted.
Oh yeah,
there are no solutions.
Yeah.
We're just in one big
it's going to happen.
dilemma.
Yeah, now it's catch up, and that's what I mean. It's like it took us this long to screw up the atmosphere. It took us, I don't know, pick a year when you want to say the industrial age started. I mean, the steam engine. Before that, I mean, we had mills running off of rivers. I mean, for the last 400 years, you could argue.
Steam engine, I think.
Well, not the steam
18,
engine, but
1810.
right. But
1812.
we've been industry of some form through like paddle wheels on the side of a mill, cutting lumber for whatever, 300 years. Let's say 300 years. So it's going to take another 300 years to go back.
Well, I think it's gonna devolve much quicker than it's set up.
It's gonna
Maybe.
catabolically collapse.
Maybe, I don't know.
Stair steps.
But
It doesn't have to.
Future thinking is the same mind virus that large scale thinking is, because it's just like, I've sat for months absorbed in articles thinking that I just needed to get a little bit better grasp so I could predict the date. January 1st is when 2016 is when we're going to collapse.
Right.
That's bullshit. It's just a mind virus that's stopping action in our localities where we need it most. I mean, there's like a really steep curve and a plateau in terms of learning about collapse. You can learn about it in a day. Peak oil, environmental degradation, learn about it in a day, then start acting. There's really not a lot more to learn because the future is so fucking difficult to predict.
Right.
Stop trying, people. Stop. Seriously, we know the general trends. Let's start acting on the general trends.
Yeah, I agree,
Excellent.
and that's why we're doing this show.
Like
that's
that.
why we do the work we do.
Very
That's
good.
why Rooster Square is there. That's why you're still going to get someday your eco park is going to happen. You just have to keep plugging at it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be necessary. It's going to be an absolute necessity. The cities, municipalities, everybody's going to go, oh God, well, how do we live now? How do we live in community now? We forgot. Well, okay, here's Christian. He remembered how to do it because he's been looking it up.
So this guy.
Yeah, because it's like people are going to be scrambling for the people that have already done the research, like they always do at every problem. Why do you think the Patriot Act was like signed in a day? That thing had been collecting dust, just waiting, for somebody to sign the thing. They were just waiting for the disaster. So we're waiting for the disaster, and we got the Patriot Act of our own figured out, I guess. And when the time comes, people will be signing on because they really won't have much other choice.
Yeah, it's just to sum up. It's ancestor wisdom. It's how we
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's what we're built for.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
With this monstrosity of society we call now is not how humanity is supposed to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be, I still am a big fan of Star Trek, but it's like, now I look at it and go, God, there's not a single plant anywhere in that space.
No, they've got some in that.
But it's like, are they even real?
Holy
They're probably GMO plastic plants. You just, who knows? So yeah, I want to live in nature. I want to get back to the earth. I want to farm. I want to do all that ridiculous stuff that was like normal 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in this room pretty much agrees with me.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do to stop that future.
Right.
It's an ecological
it
niche.
will be
Embrace it.
future.
But it is, I think it's
Yeah.
worth it. Back to the topic. I think it's all worth it because I don't know what other. I don't plan on committing suicide anytime soon. So you gotta just keep pushing forward with it.
And my sister is in Nepal right now, where they live very much closer to living with the land than we do, certainly.
Yeah.
And they are the happiest people.
Yeah.
They're super smiley. They have
Mhm.
high quality of
They have
life.
that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's true.
I mean, they have more physical ailments than us, but a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's
the other end.
same old story, quantity versus quality. So, all right, 27 minutes, 28 and some change. Thanks a lot, Christian, for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good
It's been my
discussion.
pleasure.
It was fun.
Scott, again, thank you too. And I'm Ken, and you've been listening to Ken and Scott, Post Consumers, with guest Christian Smith. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.